Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we'll keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do, but our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we'll keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do. But our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we'll keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do. But our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we'll keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do. But our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we will keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do. But our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we will keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do. But our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we'll keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do. But our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we'll keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do, but our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we'll keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do, but our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we will keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 1930s. We truly are unleashing a housing revolution in London. Let's be clear, there's much more to do, but our success has only made me more determined to roll up my sleeves and get this done. Together, we'll build a better London for everyone, one that's fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. Parents and carers, to help you and your family through this awful cost of living crisis, from September, we're providing free school meals to primary school children for the whole school year. It will mean that about 270,000 primary school kids in London will get a good, healthy meal at school. By working hard to support families like yours, together we will build a better London for everyone.
Thank you, Mayor of London.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Having a mentor can be an absolute game changer for young people, and in turn can have a really positive impact on their families and communities. That's why I'm proud to say we're on track to give 100,000 young Londoners access to a mentor.
I get to see my mentor every week, every Tuesday, and he's been very important to me because sometimes in life when you grow up you don't have the right guidance, so having a mentor can really help you guide you to the right path and be the person that you want to be and to better yourself.
You feel comfortable with talking about your problems and anything that's going on in your life, and I think that that's the best relationship to have. Having that relationship can make you feel very happy and supportive.
It's definitely helped me grow and develop my social skills and helped me to reach out to more people.
I'm proud of my record-breaking investment in young people, and I'm going to keep going until every young Londoner in need has a mentor. And together, we will keep making London fairer and safer for everyone. London, we're building record numbers of genuinely affordable homes to help end the housing crisis. Last year, we started work on the most low-cost homes to rent and buy since City Hall records began, including more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. And when it comes to all new homes, more have been completed in recent years than at any time since the 19...
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to People's Question Time. Before we start, please take a moment to look around and note the fire exit nearest to you. In the event of an emergency, please follow instructions given by staff. Please switch your electronic devices to silent mode now, and if you wish to tweet about tonight's event, the hashtag is PQT. This evening we have 6 topic areas to discuss, and we'll spend up to 18 minutes on each. This is how it works. For each topic, the chairman will take 3 questions at a time. The first 2 questions will be taken from those of you here in the audience with your hands raised. The third question will be taken from the chat room of our online registered audience participating via the live stream. For each topic, the most liked questions, as voted for by the online registered audience, will be asked. The chairman will then direct these 3 questions from each topic to the mayor or an assembly member. We have no advance notice of the questions. For those of you here in the audience, if you are able to stand to ask your question, please do this, as it will make it easier for those on stage and the cameras to see you. Please wait for a member of staff with a microphone to reach you before you start speaking. Please keep your questions short so we can get to as many of you as possible. And please, ask questions rather than make speeches. With so many of you here in person and online, we won't have time for everyone to ask a question. So if you don't get yours asked tonight, please do email mayor@london.gov.uk. Please also remember to fill in the feedback form online. There are QR codes for you to scan your device or log on to our dedicated webpage, london.gov.uk/PQT. We'll finish tonight at 9 p.m. sharp. And now, everyone, without any further ado, please put your hands together for your chairman this evening, the London Assembly member, Tony Devenish.
Good evening and welcome to those here and watching online to the 47th People's Question Time. This is the 15th People's Question Time for the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and it's great to see so many of you here tonight. The room is full. The Mayor and the London Assembly work to improve lives for Londoners and make London a better place. People's Question Time is your chance, I stress the your chance, to be the voice concerns and ask the Mayor and the Assembly members what we are doing for you and the capital and its people. Please first welcome to the stage your London Assembly members. And now please welcome the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. I just have a few very brief announcements before we will take your questions. I'm delighted to be chairing tonight's People's Question Time. After 7 years as an Assembly member, it's great that one of my 3 London boroughs, the City of Westminster, is host borough. There is nothing I enjoy more than the honour of representing the great people of Hammersmith and Fulham, of Kensington and Chelsea, and the City of Westminster. But tonight isn't about me, nor the Mayor, nor the Assembly. It's about you, your opportunity, which only comes twice a year to ask us questions directly here in this room and, I stress, online. The 5 topics tonight are the issues that keep the Mayor and the Assembly busy. Transport, In my view, keeping London moving without taxing Londoners more needs a greater focus. Policing, the issue every Londoner cares about. Our environment, something young Londoners especially often tell us we need to do way more now, not in 2030 or 2050. And housing, in my view, the biggest failure for those in this room since 2016. We are in a housing crisis. And finally, London's economic recovery. There will also be time at the end to answer any questions that do not fit into these clear categories. I've tried to keep my remarks brief for a politician, but I have to finish with one final personal remark. It's unfortunate that we have to hold this PQT here in City Hall, and I'm sure, Mr. Mayor, you share all our hope that the next PQT can return to visiting boroughs and be held, I hope, in my friend Nick's constituency in Richmond as planned. And now for some important housekeeping. If you've pre-registered to watch the event at home, you will be able to submit questions throughout the evening. Please note that the chat is for questions only. Comments will not be published. Try to ask your questions early to avoid being missed. And don't forget to like each other's questions, please. For each topic, we will begin with 2 live questions from the audience here tonight, followed by 1 online question. If we have time for additional questions, they will be taken from live audience members. Please, and I'll stress this one, please keep your questions short. No speeches, please. The politicians are on this side. And I also ask the Mayor and the members to keep their answers short, please, and to the point, so we can fit even more of Londoners in, please. Please listen to the questions and answers with respect and dignity, and do not please heckle or disrupt the meeting in any way. Your electronic devices should already be on silent mode, please. Please check that. And the same applies to both the Mayor and we Assembly members on stage. And now we have a few introductory words from the Chair of the London Assembly and then the Mayor. Welcome the Chair of the London Assembly, Andrew Boff, AM, to give his opening address.
The London Assembly is the voice of London, composed of 25 members elected at the same time as the Mayor in order to hold him to account and to scrutinise his policies. This is a People's Question Time meeting, which means that all Assembly members are invited to attend, along with the Mayor of London, and answer questions from the public. As Chair of the London Assembly, I'd like to give you all a warm welcome to City Hall. The Assembly costs Londoners under £1 a year per head to scrutinise the Mayor's budget of over £20 billion. We must ensure that money is well spent by the Mayor and that his plans deliver for Londoners. This year is an important one for all of us at City Hall and across the capital. In May 2024, Londoners will head to the polls to elect their new Mayor and Assembly, their next Mayor and Assembly members. The Assembly exists to be the voice for Londoners, and we can't do that without hearing directly from Londoners like yourselves. Since the beginning of the Assembly year in May, I'm proud that the Assembly has been regularly hearing from those living in the capital and investigating the issues that matter to you. In my role as Chair of the London Assembly, I've also been pleased to see young people's voices amplified throughout our work, and it's a delight to see so many young people here this evening. We know that young people have been hugely impacted by the pandemic and the cost of living crisis. Some key investigations for the Assembly so far this year have included the rising cost of living remains at the forefront of Londoners' minds, and the Assembly Cost of Living Working Group has been out speaking to Londoners about this on visits to a food bank, a debt advice centre, and a primary school in Battersea. A few weeks ago, the working group brought Londoners and the organisations supporting them together to City Hall to talk about the rising cost of living. And Assembly members heard from over 80 attendees about their experiences and their thoughts on potential policy solutions. We know that housing issues continue to present challenges for those across the capital. The Housing Committee recently published its Affordable Housing Monitor, which showed that despite meeting his start target of 116,000 affordable homes in his 2016-2023 Affordable Homes Programme, he has yet to start the further affordable homes that he has committed to delivering in the 2021 and 2026 programme. Given London's housing crisis, this must be a priority for the Mayor. The committee has also been looking at young Londoners' access to home ownership and was pleased to receive over 400 survey responses from young people about their experiences. Members of the Transport Committee heard from London Travel Watch that keeping ticket offices open was a priority for Londoners. The committee wrote to the government in August raising its concerns around the proposals to close ticket offices and was pleased to see its subsequent decision on keeping them open only last week. The Police and Crime Committee has spoken to young Londoners about how they have been affected by violence in our city and what they want the Met to do to help. The committee also spoke to organisations working with young people to try and understand the causes of violence affecting young Londoners and asked the Met what officers are doing to prevent violence in the communities that are most impacted. We know that post-pandemic, leading healthy lives is ever more important to Londoners. The Health Committee has been looking at issues affecting both physical and mental health, including eating disorders, and an upcoming investigation into gambling. Hearing directly from Londoners about their experiences of these issues has been front and centre of these investigations, indeed all the investigations that we carry out at City Hall. There were over 100 responses, for example, to our survey on eating disorders in London. The Assembly's scrutiny work spans across 13 committees, and as you've heard, there's a great breadth of work that we do. Other topics that the Assembly has covered this year have included community energy projects, childcare in London, architecture and design of social housing, local policing, and outer London transport and river transport services. You can keep up with our work by following us on Twitter @LondonAssembly, and we don't call it Twitter anymore, don't we? I always think X is a stupid bloody name, but still, at London Assembly, and watching our meetings in person at City Hall or on YouTube. So to sum it up, we are elected by you to look out for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. I now invite the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, to give his opening address, please.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to City Hall. It's great to be able to host you this evening and to have the opportunity to answer your questions. As the title of the event suggests, People's Question Time is about you, not us. So I'll keep my opening remarks brief. I do want to start by quickly acknowledging some of the very real challenges facing our city and explain how at City Hall we're seeking to address them. I know that Londoners continue to be deeply affected by the conflict in the Middle East. Many, like me, have watched in horror at the killing of so many innocent civilians in Israel and Gaza and the horrendous humanitarian crisis in Gaza. My thoughts and prayers continue to be with all those impacted. Of course, there are clearly passionate, different perspectives within our communities. But what's crucial is that we don't allow our differences to define us or to lead to hate and division here on the streets of London. Rather, we must pull together, stamp out any instances of anti-Semitism or Islamophobia, and demonstrate that where we have legitimate, honestly held opposing viewpoints, it is possible to disagree respectfully and without rancour, showing empathy and sensitivity towards our fellow Londoners. Because the capacity to disagree amicably and still move forward together is the true hallmark of any democracy. As a Londoner, and as someone who was born and raised in this great city, it was the honour of a lifetime to be elected as your mayor. And I've spent every day over the last 7 years working tirelessly to repay that faith, trying to give back to the city that gave so much to me and my family. London has faced some incredibly testing times in recent years, with the pandemic, massive government cuts to public services, and now a terrible cost of living crisis. But I'm proud of what we've delivered so far. For the first time in the history of our city, universal free school meals for all state school primary children in London. Easier, greener, more affordable public transport for commuters. Cleaner air for millions of Londoners. The Elizabeth line, by the way, we didn't give up. We persevered, and now it's the most popular train line in the country. Getting London building again, with more homes being built now than at any time since the 1930s, and more council homes at any time since the 1970s. A quadrupling of the homelessness budget, which has taken more than 15,000 rough sleepers off our streets. Free skills training for anyone who's unemployed or in low-paid work, helping more than 500,000 Londoners since 2019. A 40% increase in the London living wage since I became mayor. London back on its feet after the pandemic by supporting our businesses and bringing jobs, tourism and investment back to our city. 330,000 new jobs created through City Hall initiatives, leading the way on police reform, helping to drive out the appalling racism, sexism and homophobia in the Met, and record investment in neighbourhood policing with positive opportunities for young Londoners as part of an approach that's helped to reduce knife crime, gun crime and burglary since 2016. All the while, we've continued to loudly and proudly stand up for our city's values of equality, inclusion and respect for diversity. We should be proud of the big steps we've taken as a city, but there's clearly still so much more to do to reduce crime further, build more affordable homes, to tackle the climate crisis, to reduce inequality and to fully unlock the potential of our communities. So my promise is that I'll continue working flat out to build a safer, greener and fairer city. And I'll not rest until London is truly a place where everyone has a fair shot, where everyone feels welcome and valued, and where no one is left behind. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions with the Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's now time to hear your questions. The first topic is transport, and I'll take questions in three, the first two from the audience and a third from the live chat. So, paddle three, the gentleman right next to you in the white shirt.
Hi, I've got a question for you, Mr. Mayor. You say getting London moving. How does the extreme TfL ULEZ charges throughout the expansion of London outer area actually help achieve that? Because many people are going to go out of business, they're going to go bust. London is not moving, London is snarled up in gridlock.
And we have another question as well. The lady, number one, yes, in the white, that's it.
The cost of living crisis is a huge issue within the UK at the moment. How are you going to target TfL prices so that they do not severely impact those on the poverty line?
Thank you. And the online question. Hello, will you freeze fares again? People are really struggling with the cost of living and it would be a lifesaver for so many people. Mr. Mayor.
Well, thanks for all those questions. I'll deal with them, Tony, in the order they were asked, which might be easier. So look, 1 month after the ULEZ expanded to outer London, so all 9 million Londoners are breathing cleaner air. TfL did a 1 month report. TfL did a 1 month report, as they did after the Central London ULEZ and after they did the Inner London ULEZ. And the great news is we've gone from a position where in 2017, at the launch of the precursor to ULEZ, only 39% of vehicles were compliant, to in May 22, when the consultation began for outer London, 85% of vehicles were compliant, to now, 1 month on, 95% of vehicles being compliant, 77,000 fewer non-compliant vehicles, and almost 50,000 fewer vehicles overall. So we're improving air quality, addressing the climate emergency, but also reducing congestion. At the same time, we now have the Superloop in outer London. We have the Elizabeth line in outer London. We've got the Northern line expanded to outer London and Bark and Riverside expanded to outer London. We're going to carry making progress to improve public transport in outer London. It's incredibly important that we support those communities because they breathe the worst air. And we know half the households in London don't own a car. More than half of Londoners with asthma live in outer London. 24 of the 30 GPs with the largest number of asthma patients are all in outer London. They deserve clean air, as indeed those of us in central London and in London have got. Nobody put up with dirty water. We shouldn't put up with dirty air. The second question in relation to the cost of living crisis is one of the biggest challenges facing our city. It's been made particularly worse over the last couple of years by Liz Truss's kamikaze budget last year. The average Londoner who's gone from a fixed-term mortgage to now a new mortgage is paying £500 more a month in their mortgages. And we know rents are going up as well. And that's why transport costs are so important, to alleviate some of the increase in people's living with rent, with mortgage, with food. The good news is in my first 5 years as mayor, we froze fares. That saved the average household £200. We also, by the way, introduced the hopper bus fare. You could use any buses and any trams within an hour, unlimited, for the one fare of £1.50. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we needed support from the government by way of a deal. And the conditions to that deal, which if we'd not accepted, TfL would have gone bankrupt, meant we had to raise fares by 1% above what's called RPI, basically above inflation. So first 5 years, froze fares. 3 years afterwards, we had to increase fares, 1% above RPI, or they'd have taken the money away from us. And that's why you've experienced the increase in fares. Good news, we still have the cheapest bus fares in the country. Good news, I said no to the government when they said remove travel from children. And I said no to the government when they said remove travel from those above the age of 60. And so at the moment, I'm afraid the budget is for a 4% increase in transport fares from next year. That's a deal with the government. And the government's also making us make cuts of £600 million from our budget and raise £500 million as well. So I wish I could do what I did before my hands were tied and freeze fares. I'm afraid the government deal means we've got to increase fares by 4% next year, subject to any changes in funding from the government. But I'm going to carry on arguing for funding from the government because unlike Paris and New York and Barcelona and Madrid, we're the only city in the Western world not getting support from our central government. The third question from the internet, Tony, was in relation to the request to fares freeze, and it goes to the question the last questioner asked in the hall about, can I freeze fares again? Look, the evidence is when the government's not attaching conditions to me and TfL, I do freeze fares. The only reason we increase fares is because the government conditions. We also need support from the government in relation to capital. So look, I'm going to carry on trying to negotiate with the government, trying to get more money from the government. We've got a budget on November the 22nd. We've put in a request for support for TfL. We'll have to wait and see whether this government, with Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt, are like the previous ones, being anti-London, whether this government finally is going to be a pro-London government.
AM Pigeon and then AM Hall, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Caroline Pigeon. I'm a Liberal Democrat Assembly member and I'm on the Transport Committee. In terms of the question about the ultra-low emissions zone, you know, we passionately believe that we need to clean up the air in London. What I believe is that the Mayor's policy has been implemented too fast. And what I would say is, and Liberal Democrats called for this right back in the budget earlier this year, we needed more time to implement such a policy. We need a bigger scrappage scheme open to everyone right from the set-go. And also you needed massive boost to buses in outer London alongside this, rather than that coming later. And what we saw in the end was the Mayor introducing a week before the rollout of the outer London ULEZ that everyone could apply. And he's not taking backdated applications. So those people who scrape money together early on in order to clean up their vehicle are being penalised for doing the right thing rather than being able to retrospectively claim that scrappage. And we think that's absolutely wrong and we will continue to press the Mayor on that. But in terms of fares in London have been kept down and that is to be commended. The 1 hour bus ticket, which this Mayor did bring in as a hopper fare, is something Lib Dems have called for since I've been on the Assembly in 2008. We've been quite obsessed by it. It's even on Wikipedia, I think you'll find that it was our idea. And I think that's a really great way to help people travel and change buses and only pay one fare. But I think it's really important that both National Rail and Transport for London look at innovations such as a part-time travel card to help people who work part-time, who only travel into work 2 or 3 days a week, to make sure they get the cheapest fare as well. And in terms of fares for next year, I really think government has got to look at rail fares to keep those as low as possible, alongside the Mayor considering what he can do with TfL fares, because everyone is currently hurting in the pocket. And we need to make sure that fares are kept as affordable as possible in order that more people will use public transport and that we can keep London moving.
AM Hall.
Thank you. Hello, my name's Susan Hall. First to the gentleman up there, I have to tell you, I think the ULEZ expansion is an absolute disgrace. This Mayor, who does nothing but complain about the government all the time, just let me tell you, he has a £21 billion budget, a £21 billion budget. And in the last 2 months, he's made £52 million out of the back of the poorest of Londoners on the ULEZ expansion costs. Thank you. Well, we're talking about the ULEZ expansion at the moment. Talking about gridlock, also quite right. A successful city is a moving city. Unfortunately, it's gridlocked the whole time. We have 20-mile-an-hour zones in the Finchley Road, which is totally inappropriate. We have LTNs all over the place, which is causing people to have to drive miles out of their own way to get somewhere, which just adds to the chaos. So many things need to be replaced. I would stop the ULEZ expansion on day one, because that is what Londoners want. I will absolutely pledge that if I am in the Mayor's seat, which I will be hopefully in May, this city will be moving again, because we will get rid of the ridiculous cycle lane on Park Lane when there's one just adjacent to it. That was nothing but virtue signalling from this Mayor again. There's so much that needs to be done on transport. TfL's finances need to be looked at, because obviously I agree with Assemblymember Pigeon. We need things to be as affordable as possible. If you want people to use public transport, you've got to make it reliable, you've got to make it affordable. And this Mayor is failing on all of those things. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. 2 quick transport questions. The lady in pink had her hand up last time. Paddle 3.
Me?
Yes, you.
Well, I'm hoping, Mr. Mayor, you will actually... Yeah. Yes, thank you. Mr. Khan, I'm hoping you'll answer my question this time, because when I came to Ealing, you tweeted after the Ealing People's Question Time, and I quote, "It was good to answer questions in Ealing on how we are addressing genuine concerns about the ULEZ expansion." I asked you a genuine question then, you didn't answer it. You didn't answer a lot of other people's questions either. I have a friend who is going to see his disabled sister every weekend out of London in his non-compliant car. It's now costing him £1,300 per year to go and see and help her. It's costing other people lots and lots of money as well. You say London is open, but your policies are closing it more and more every day. I believe ULEZ is actually replenishing TfL's budget. I don't believe the lies. Thank you. I don't believe that it's all about pollution. You travel down Chiswick High Road from Hammersmith. It takes half an hour to get to Gunnersby on a bus. It's appalling. So, Susan, you're absolutely right. So, is it really about making money for TfL? And Mr. Khan, all the millions you're making from poorer people, like me, I have an old car. What are you going to spend this money on? And are you going to reinstate the over-60s fares as well? Free travel all day long for us. Thank you.
Thank you. One last question. One last question on transport. Come on, don't be shy. Gentleman right at the back, paddle 3, with his hand up there.
Can you explain what you're going to do about the appalling pollution on the tube? The pollution on the tube is at least 10 times more than it is on the roads, and it needs sorting out.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, thanks for both those questions. So, in relation to the support for those who've got non-compliant cars, we've made progress since the last People's Question Time, which is now every single family in London is eligible for support through the scrappage scheme. Every single business is now eligible for support, small business. Every single charity is now eligible for support. Those who are disabled are eligible for grace periods and exemptions. Those are the big changes that we've made, because we've put in more money for the scrappage scheme. What the government required us to do, you mentioned the 60-plus Oyster card, was to remove it. So the condition was to remove it altogether. They also said, as a precursor, don't allow older people to use travel before 9:30 because of the rush hour and because that was a period of time when lots of people were using public transport. We've managed to keep the 60-plus Oyster. What we've not managed to do is bring back travel in the early hours of the morning. I think if the choice is keeping 60-plus after 9:30 or removing it altogether, I choose the former rather than the latter. In relation to the second question, in relation to the tube. So on the tube, there is dust. On the surface, there are emissions from vehicles. So the government has requirements for both dust and for emission to do with nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter, but the government also has conditions in relation to dust. So on the underground, although we've reduced the amount of dust on the underground, the dust on the underground is within the government limits. On the surface, the particulate matter, which we know can cause cancer and other illnesses, is above government limits, and that's one of the reasons we've brought in the ULEZ. We were required as a city to make our air lawful by 2010. It is still unlawful, and according to experts, it will take 193 years to make it lawful. With our policies, we'll do by 2025.
Gentleman at the back, a T-shirt, black T-shirt, very briefly, and then Peter AM.
Hi there. Just wondering if you've got any comment to make about the Wraysbury data centre, where you've cut down hundreds of trees to get your data centre there. Over the 13-acre site that 6 acres of it has been filled in with 3 metres of extra soil, affecting the water table in the area. You know,
Sir, that's in Windsor.
That's in Wraysbury.
Wraysbury is next to Windsor. It's not in London, sir.
Yeah, but why is
time.
Mr. Khan putting his database there, affecting the residents of Wraysbury, putting them through hell? They got flooded out in 2018, 2014, and now TfL has moved into the area and affected the water table further.
Got the question, sir. Thank you. And Peter, quickly.
Thank you very much. I just want to agree with the comments that Susan Hall made earlier, which goes to show that we'll be safer with Susan next year when she takes these cameras out on day one. But I just want to put down a marker, right? And I agree with the lady there that this is about money, right? ULEZ is about making money, and he's using you all as a cash machine. And I want to put down a marker. A year, 2 years down the line, when the ULEZ revenue starts to fall off, then we're going to see the next iteration. And it's going to be some sort of road user charging model. Now, I know the Mayor has denied that that's happening, in exactly the same way he denied he was going to expand out to Greater London, I might add. But you mark my words, there are technical elves working away in TfL building these models to charge you to get into your car and drive every day. He has to be stopped, and he has to be stopped in the next election.
Mr. Mayor, quickly, got 1 minute left this section, please.
Well, thank you for coming from Windsor. I'm afraid I don't know about the plan application in Windsor or the impact on the water table. But what I'm happy to do is to arrange for, if you give your details to the staff, get one of my staff to find out about the application in Windsor and the impact. Sorry?
Sorry, sir, we're out of time on transport. But if we didn't get to your question, please do visit the People's Question Time page on london.gov.website, which tells you how to submit one in writing. And, sir, if you write to me, I will take that up for you. Moving on to policing and safety. Our topic for the next 18 minutes is the most important in most of our views, policing and safety, which includes any question about the community safety, policing, the London Fire Brigade. Again, I'll take questions in threes. Please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. Come on, somebody on paddle one this time. Somebody on that side of the room. Must be somebody who wants to ask a question. No? Okay, paddle four, the gentleman there in the lilac, third row up. He wants to... You, sir? Pink, sorry, my eyesight's bad. Apologies. Go ahead.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Khan. Thefts up 31%. Sexual offences up 43%. Robberies up 58%. Will you apologise to London residents for allowing London to become lawless under your leadership?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello. What are you, Mr. Mayor, going to do about the knife crime in London? It's out of control. People are dying on a weekly basis and nothing seems to be happening. We need it taken into control. People are scared and frightened to walk out on their streets now. And it's all down to you because you're not doing anything. Thank you.
And the third question is online. The right to protest, it says, is fundamental in a democracy. What do you think of what the Home Secretary has said about this weekend's protest? Mr. Mayor.
Well, in relation to any victim of crime, it's just awful. When you spend time speaking to victims of crime, whether it's knife crime, the second question, or whether it's burglary, the first question, and the other sorts of crime that was mentioned by the first questioner. So what we've done since I've become mayor, in the context of us losing £1 billion of funding from the government. So in 2010, for every 1,000 Londoners, there were 4 officers. In the last few years, it's only 3 officers for every 1,000, so that's less officers per population. So what we've done from City Hall is invest in more police officers using the receipts we have from council tax and business rates. And that's led to an investment of more than 1,300 police officers in London.
Sir.
So we've invested in 1,300 more officers in London, and this year, a further 500 police community support officers. Our population's grown by more than 1 million over the last year, so per 1,000 population, our police officers are still less than the numbers there were in 2010. Notwithstanding that, by investing in the country's first violence reduction unit, a public health model, we've made progress since 2019, and the VRU being set up. So the good news is we've seen homicides go down. The good news, we've seen knife crime with those injured below the age of 25 go down. The good news, we've seen gun crime go down. The good news, we've seen burglary go down, but we need to have more progress made there. And that's why the new Commissioner is invested in neighbourhood policing, making sure each borough has a superintendent that knows the community well, but also making sure we're using intelligence and data to target known offenders and perpetrators, and we hope to make more progress over the course of the next period. When you look at the rest of England and Wales, crime in London is less. When you look at comparable cities like Manchester and Birmingham, the areas you mentioned, it is less as well. And the context is, across the country, the consequences of austerity. But as long as I've been mayor, we've invested in those issues, and I'll carry on investing in those issues as well. The second question was in relation to knife crime. And I've met too many victims of knife crime, both as a Member of Parliament for 11 years, but also as the mayor for the last 7 years. It destroys a family's life when they're the victim of knife crime, particularly when there's been a bereavement. So working with the VRU, we've put school sport officers in schools. We've made sure there are more youth workers in youth clubs over the last 10 years. People don't like to hear it. We've had more than 130 youth clubs closing down, more than 730 youth workers losing their jobs. We've invested in constructive things for young people to do. 150,000 young people now doing constructive things. We're investing in 100,000 young people having a mentor. And the good news is we saw last year a reduction by more than 50% of teenage homicides, a reduction in knife crime, those below the age of 25. But also we're seeing progress made with after-school clubs, weekend clubs and the holidays. And we're going to carry on lobbying from the government in the autumn budget for more support from them as well. The third question in relation to protest is a really important question as well.
Sir. Come on, we've got to get the questions through, please. Mr. Khan, third question, please.
Tony, you need to give a warning.
So the third question that was asked in relation to protest, one of the cornerstones of our democracy is the right to protest. And it's incredibly important we understand that right is very important. I don't think politicians should be dictating which protests can take place and which ones should be banned. We have in this country a really important principle of operational independence. Yes, of course, we're in charge of oversight and scrutiny. And the legislation is quite clear, passed in 1986 when Mrs. Thatcher was the Prime Minister. There are certain times when protests can be banned if there's going to be serious disorder. And it's for the Commissioner to decide if that threshold has been passed. The Commissioner has decided that threshold hasn't been reached, which is why the protest is taking place. And the behaviour of the Home Secretary in publicly advocating for a ban is disgraceful, it is irresponsible, and her article was incorrect. I'm really proud that you can, in this country, protest on issues that others may disagree with, as long as you behave lawfully, peacefully, and safely.
AM Desai and then AM Hall.
Thank you, Chair. These are worrying times, troubling times, very. The Mayor was right to talk about hate crime in his opening statement. Hate crime in London in October increased. In October alone, 1,200 anti-Semitic incidents and 450 Islamophobic incidents were reported to the police. 1,800 referrals to the Met's counter-terrorism internet referral units. We all have a role to play, a responsibility. Please report any hate crime that you know of to the Met, Tell Mama, or the Community Security Trust. At the Police and Crime Committee yesterday, of which I'm a member, I asked the Deputy Mayor for Policing, the Victim Commissioner, and the Assistant Met Commissioner what they were doing in terms of providing specific support to victims of hate crime. And I was reassured by the answers. What we need in these worrying times is reassuring, calm, and inspiring leadership and action. And I welcome the Mayor's action in telling the Met to show zero tolerance in terms of hate crime. I welcome his funding of community groups to the tune of £11 million to challenge hate and radicalization. And Mr. Mayor, I thank you on behalf of all Londoners for going to the Winder Holocaust Library after the graffiti attack on them. Thank you very much indeed, and to show solidarity. What we don't need in these troubling times is the divisive rhetoric of the walking, talking disaster that is the Home Secretary, who should be showing leadership. What we don't need is rhetoric about the police favoring different marches and playing court's favorites. What we don't need is her describing protests around Gaza as hate marches. What we don't need is her attacks on a multicultural society as undermining our security and stability, and particularly this interference the Mayor has already talked about with operational independence of our police. That's unprecedented. It risks undermining our model of policing that has been so carefully built up over the years and the trust that people have in policing. Home Secretary, you are playing some very dangerous games. And you know what? She knows what she's on about. Her words are not misguided. It is all to do with leadership ambitions and pandering to the hard right of the Tory party, which certainly doesn't do nothing to help my constituents here in City and East London and in London. And we should all condemn her for that and stand up against that dangerous rhetoric. And what we do need is for the Home Secretary to fund London's Metropolitan Police properly. The austerity cuts have affected the Met to the tune of £1 billion. What we need is legislation to outlaw zombie knives. What we need is for her to be careful with her rhetoric and language. Some hope there. What we need is language does matter. It has consequences. Words have consequences. We got to say loudly and clearly, and I say this from this platform, there is no room for hate in London.
AM Hall, please.
Thank you. Beautifully read, Assembly Member Desai. Actually, the gentleman at the back, I really feel for you, because I think most of us in this audience absolutely appreciate that very few of us, if any of us, feel safe. We do not feel safe on the streets of London. And the person that is in charge of the Metropolitan Police is the Mayor of this city, Sadiq Khan. You're quite right, Assembly Member Desai, we do need proper leadership. And the Metropolitan Police is certainly not getting it by our police and crime commissioner. Now, the Metropolitan Police is the only police force in the whole country that had to give money back to the government because they couldn't recruit enough officers. The government provided the money for new officers. But to repeat, the Metropolitan Police Service was the only one that couldn't supply them. So money has been given back to the government. But you don't hear that from the Mayor. You just hear the Mayor saying he needs more and more money from the government. Everything is somebody else's fault. We hear it every single time. That's all we hear. If you're going to be a Mayor of this wonderful city, if you are going to be Mayor of this wonderful city, you have to take responsibility. It comes with the job. Unfortunately, that memo never got through to Sadiq Khan. This is the first time that the Metropolitan Police has ever been under special measures, and it's the first time that the Fire Brigade, the London Fire Brigade, has been under special measures. This is all within the last 7 years, when Sadiq Khan has been in charge. At the end of the day, we all want to feel safe, and I feel very, very sorry for so many people that don't. I, as a female, do not feel safe walking home. Very many women hold their keys in their hands, and when somebody's walking behind them at night, believe you me, we feel frightened. We shouldn't feel like that. We should have more police officers on the beat. We should have more police officers around to make us feel safer. I am a very great supporter of the police, and I always have been, but they need more support. Our frontline officers need more support, and they need somebody that will stand up for them. And we as Londoners need to feel safe. It is the Mayor's job to make sure that we do, and we are being failed extremely badly by Mayor Khan.
Right, I've got one more question from the audience. The gentleman, second row from the top behind you, number 3. Very quick, please.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, in virtually every question so far, all you've done is refer to the government. What is the point in having you in post if you don't take responsibility for anything at all?
And I've also... I've also, quiet please. I've got an online question as well, Mr. Khan. Preventing hate starts at a young age, the questioner says. I am a teacher. What are you doing in schools to ensure young people learn how to deal with intolerance? And before the Mayor, Caroline Russell AM.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of young people in our city are disproportionately, particularly young black people, are disproportionately policed. There is a huge issue of trust and confidence amongst young people, and the Police and Crime Committee, which I chair, is currently doing a scrutiny into young people affected by violence, and we are listening to the voices of young Londoners. We've had people from the Violence Reduction Unit, the youth group, part of that, and we've also had people who work as youth workers in to talk to us. There are real issues. There needs to be much more listening to young people, hearing what young people have to say, and we need to make sure that young people are not finding themselves stopped, searched, strip searched without an appropriate adult, injured in contact with the police and finding themselves in hospital. There are things that these things are happening. It needs a lot of scrutiny, and the Met really needs to get a grip on the way that young people are being policed and the way those interactions with the police are going. There's a lot that can be done with youth workers. There's a real problem with not enough youth workers from years of cuts that my colleague Sian Berry exposed. The Mayor is doing a bit to get more money into youth work, but it is really important that we invest in young people and youth workers. And I just want to say one thing on protest. I have been absolutely shocked by the way that the Home Secretary has ramped up the debate and the division over the issue of policing over this weekend. Now, it is really important that people can celebrate or respect and show respect at the armistice and show respect at the remembrance events. But it is also very important that the freedoms that were fought for in those wars that we remember are respected too. And there is a right to peaceful, lawful protest, and the Commissioner is being put in an intolerable position with political intervention that is trying to influence his decisions that should be based on the law and that should be based on the evidence that he sees. He's been very clear that the conditions at the moment do not meet the threshold to ban any marches, particularly the march that's planned on Saturday,
so I'm going to cut you
goes
off,
nowhere near
AM
the
Russell.
cenotaph and is happening after the 2-minute silence.
Mr. Mayor.
So dealing with both questions. So look, I'm never going to apologise for standing up for London. If you want a patsy for a mayor who's in the pocket for the government, vote for somebody else. And we're going to recognise that austerity was a choice made by the government, and that austerity has consequences. So we as a city, so we as a city have lost £1.1 billion from the government. In 2010, the police used to be funded 3/4 by the government, 1/4 by London taxpayers. Now the police is funded 2/3 by the government and 1/3 by London taxpayers. So we can't fill the massive hole left by government cuts. We've lost police officers, we've lost police community staff, we've lost police staff, we've lost police stations, we've lost youth clubs, we've lost youth workers. So from City Hall, we're doing what we can with the limited monies we have to invest in more police officers, more police community support officers, more youth workers, more youth clubs. But you can't replace all the cuts we face with the money from City Hall. So I'm going to carry on making the point that we need investment from the government. And it's quite clear, the only time we're going to get investment from the government is when the government changes after the next general election. The second question is incredibly important in relation to what we do to support young people who, I'm afraid, need to have the skills to address issues around hatred, racism, intolerance, and extremism. So from City Hall, over the last few years, we've been invested in community groups who do brilliant work in our schools. We've got a fund called the Shared
Endeavour Fund, we fund educators like Maccabi GP, like the Community Security Trust, like Tell Mama, to go into schools and work with young people to address the stereotypes, to address the generalisations, to give young people the tools to make sure they can respond to hatred and intolerance. The good news to the questioner and the teacher who asked the question is we're making progress with the young generation. The challenge are adults who I'm afraid do reinforce stereotypes, do make generalisations, and it can lead to differences, leading to those differences having hatred against them. That's why we've seen over the last few weeks a massive increase in anti-Semitism, a massive increase in Islamophobia, and one of the reasons why we've got to be cognizant of the tensions in the Middle East and how it affects our great city.
We've gone over time on this section, so I'm going to have to move on. Apologies, AM Bailey. We're moving on to air quality and the environment. So 2 questions from the audience. Gentleman at the back. Yes, number 1.
Yeah, I'd like the panel's opinion, please, or the Assembly's opinion, on the fact that Shirley Rodriguez tried to influence Imperial College to change the wording on their report about the effects of ULEZ.
And the gentleman number 3 there. There you go.
Hi. Mr. Mayor, I'm trying to get, I'm getting money together to get a monument to these 4,000 Londoners that die each year, but I cannot find any names to go on those. Can you please help me on that? Or are you just lying?
And the online question is as follows. I'm worried that if the mayoralty changes hands, whoever replaces Mr. Khan would try and bring dirty vehicles back onto our roads. Will the other parties present promise not to, please? Mr. Mayor.
So look, I'm quite clear that we need to be working with experts in relation to what the expert advice is on a whole host of issues, air quality or other issues as well. And the advice from the experts is quite clear. Air pollution, exposure to air pollution is not safe at any level. It does lead to premature deaths in our city. According to the experts, around 4,000...
Sir, let the Mayor answer, please.
So it does lead to around 4,000 premature deaths a year. It does lead. It does lead to children having stunted lungs forever. It does lead to adults having a whole host of health issues, from asthma to cancer, dementia.
Come on, Quiet!
No.
We don't want to have to get security out. Just please let them hear. Mr. Mayor, please.
And that's the advice from experts from across the country and across the globe. There's also evidence that the ULEZ has worked. It's worked in central London, where it's reduced toxic air by almost 50%. It's led to a third fewer children being admitted to hospital with air pollution. It's worked in inner London, a further 20% reduction in air pollution, but also children going to 500 schools breathing clean air. So that's the evidence which we're going to rely upon. The question in relation to...
Come on.
This is ridiculous.
We're going to have to stop it if we don't stop. It's that simple.
You should give. You should be giving them.
I think we need to chair.
It's very... I'm afraid security... I'm going to have to ask security to remove people if you do it once last time. Last warning, it's that simple. Sir...
Get him out. You need to remove them. Yep. Yep. Turn your mic on.
Look, are you gonna keep quiet? Are you gonna keep quiet so we can actually do the meeting, sir? Okay, well, Mr. Mayor, try one last time. Last warning for some of the audience, I'm afraid.
So the online question in relation to the choice at the next mayoral election, well, look, you know, my record of the last 7 or 8 years is quite clear. We've managed to clean the air in our city in central London and in inner London, and I'm hoping in outer London as well. And look, according to experts, King's College, without my policies, it would have taken 193 years to make our air lawful. We'll do by 2025.
Assembly Member McCartney.
Yes, thank you. Can I say, I don't think it's flippant to talk in the way we have been doing about 4,000 premature deaths. They are real people and families that have been affected. The research is from Imperial College London, one of our premier research institutes. I'm also the Deputy Mayor for Children and Families. And can I say, I've been very proud that we now have 5 million more Londoners breathing cleaner air. We have children who will not be growing up. We have children who will not be growing up.
Quiet!
We have children who will not be growing up with stunted lungs. The evidence is there. In central London, hospital admissions for children with asthma have dropped dramatically. I represent outer London. Until recently, half of my constituency was within the ULEZ. The North Circular dissected it. So I had a situation where half of my population had cleaner air, the other half didn't. Can I say, this means that 5 million more Londoners will be breathing cleaner air. In 2016, when Sadiq was elected, Boris Johnson had buried a report which said that 455 London schools were breathing in toxic air in excess of government and World Health standards. That has now been reduced drastically. I think there's very few, if any, schools that are now above legal limits. The Mayor's introduced over 500 school streets where at school pick-up and drop-off time, traffic is restricted, creating healthier environments. I'm extremely proud of that record. That's a really good legacy for future generations.
Thank you. I've got one more online question, and then AM Fortune would like to ask a question. We've just had the hottest October on record in 2023. Is set to be the hottest year since records begun. What is the Mayor doing to decrease city temperatures through urban tree planting, pocket gardens and reflective road surfaces? And AM Fortune.
I was going to make a comment rather than ask a question, but
Sure.
I'm happy to pick up. For those of you who are getting frustrated at not getting clear answers, welcome to my world. The other issue about blaming government for everything, that's a theme that you'll see developing through the evening as well. Just want to pick up on a couple of things. The 4,000 deaths, it's a statistical mathematical model, right? Nobody believes that it's 4,000 people dropping dead every year. It is a statistical, it's a statistical mathematical model that's used to drive a point, if you'll excuse the pun. Now look, everybody wants cleaner air. Of course you do. You would be insane not to want cleaner air. But the problem that keeps coming up over and over again is that difference between inner and outer London. And there's that false equivalence. You'll hear it. It works in inner London, therefore it will work in outer London. No, they're two different spaces, two different infrastructures, with different challenges around transport. So I represent God's boroughs of Bexley and Bromley, right? Now, if you start... God bless you. So if you start at about 3 o'clock on the London clock, you're not going to hit a tube station until you get to about 7 o'clock. Bexley, Bromley, Sutton, Croydon, there's not a tube station in it. We need to use vehicles to move around. Where I am, which is down in the sticks, there's a ward near me, down Darwin Ward. One ward in Orpington is bigger than Islington. Outer London is different from inner London. So that's why we need targeted solutions. And that's why I agree with what Susan is saying, that we need to find out where the poor air is and clean it up, not tax it where it isn't.
Quiet, Mr. Mayor.
So to answer the question asked online in relation to addressing the climate emergency. So last year, we saw temperatures in London in excess of 41 degrees Celsius, the highest ever. This July was the hottest July. This July was the hottest July since records began. This September was the hottest September since record began. We've also seen in our city over the last couple of years flash flooding we've seen over the course of 2 hours. Rain we normally receive in 2 months. So climate change is happening now, and it's happening to us. The choice is to have your head in the sand and ignore the challenge, or to kick the can down the road, or to take action. And what we're doing in London is taking action in relation to adapting our city and making the changes we need to do to address the consequences of climate change, as well as trying to prevent it getting worse in our city. So we've changed our planning policies. The London Plan now requires every new development in London to be a net zero carbon. There is a requirement to make sure that the machinery that's been used in those buildings are net zero carbon, but also we're taking steps to make sure we have a city that can support people when there's a heat wave. So, for example, planting more trees, making sure there are more water fountains, more than 125 water fountains since I became mayor. The new trains we have, the new buses we have, making sure they're air coolant or air conditioned as well, retrofitting the buildings we have and retrofitting the vehicles we have as well. But I'm afraid we're not going to get there sooner if we do what the government done, which is delay action, for example, in the ban of selling, in the ban of buying new petrol and diesel vehicles. There was a reason why the previous government brought in a requirement that after 2030, you won't be able to buy new petrol or new diesel. What this Prime Minister has done is kick the can down the road. So I'm afraid the questioner's concern about addressing the climate emergency won't happen sooner, it will happen later while this lot stay in power in Parliament.
Thank you. We're moving on to the next section is housing. 2 questions from the audience. The young gentleman in the middle there, number 3, if you can move to the grey, greyish, that gentleman there, yes.
Mr. Mayor, hi. So my question is, what steps are being taken to ensure that housing development is sustainable and meets the long-term needs of the growing population?
And the lady in white, number 1.
University students are having to use their student finance in order to pay their rent, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And they're not being able to use, the student finance that they do have is not enough to actually pay their rent. They are going broke, and university students are becoming homeless. How are you going to address this?
Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for both those questions. I think housing is the biggest challenge facing our city. We've got a housing crisis that's been decades in the making that we've got to try and solve. So a number of things we're going to do in relation to sustainability, as well as meeting the requirements of Londoners. So all new homes in London have got to be net zero carbon, unlike other parts of the country. It's a requirement. If you want permission to build new homes, that's a condition of getting permission. You've got to make sure it's sustainable. And the great thing about these sustainable homes, A, it means that we're addressing the climate emergency, But B, it means your bills are cheaper because they're insulated. They're high ceilings. So they're cooler in summer and they're warmer in winter as well. And because we've got heat pumps in these new buildings, or we've got district heating networks, your cost of living challenges are less bad than they otherwise would be. We're also making sure the key issue in relation to helping Londoners is that they're affordable. So when I became mayor, an affordable home is one that cost either £500,000 to buy, or the rent was 80% of market value. So the rent could be much, much more in central London, maybe cheaper in other parts of London. We've thrown those dodgy definitions in the bin and said to a developer, if you want to build homes, half have got to be genuinely affordable. That's either a council home, where the rent is based on a manual worker's salary, a London living rent based upon a third of average earnings in an area, or shared ownership part by part rent. And as I said in my opening comments, we've broken records. Most homes completed at any period since the 1930s, most council homes any time since the 1970s, but it's not enough. We've got to be massively increasing the supply of new homes to meet the demand. And I'll give you one scary stat. For every 6 council homes sold off under right to buy, every 6 sold off, only 1 has been built in its place. So the supply is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and the demand's going higher and higher and higher. And the second big thing we've got to do in relation to housing, because for the foreseeable future, the supply is not going to meet demand. There's more and more people renting privately from private landlords, and the rents are humongous. Average rent in a private property in London, £2,600 every month, and it's going up every year between 5 and 10%. So I'm lobbying the government to give me the powers to freeze the rents in London and then to bring in rent controls in London so people can afford to live in our city. The second question in relation to universities links with that answer to the last question. It's because rents are going up so much that uni students can't afford to live in London. There aren't enough places in halls of residence. So many students in their second and third year in particular go to a private landlord, often bad quality accommodation, and the rents are humongous. So the 3 things we want to do in relation to private accommodation: make sure the rents are affordable, make sure tenants have got better rights when they are tenants with the private landlord, so they can't be evicted for no good reason whatsoever, what's called Section 21 no-fault eviction. And thirdly, make sure the quality of accommodation is decent, no mould, no damp. And so what we're doing in City Hall is we have a rogue landlord register, so you can see who a dodgy landlord is. We're training inspectors to make sure they can inspect the properties to see if there's damp and mould. And we're lobbying the government to powers for rent freeze and rent control. And the final thing we're doing is when it comes to universities applying for permission to build halls of residence, we're requiring them to make sure a percentage are affordable for students who are struggling, because you're right, many students are having to do 2, 3, 4 jobs to get extra money in to pay for living in London, which for the reasons we've said is not cheap.
AM Polanski and then AM Bailey, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Zach Polanski, and I'm from the Green Party. I rented for about 12 years in London, and I changed house about 14 times in that time, because very often the rent was just unmanageable. So your question is really important. I think this is happening to lots of young people across our city. And in fact, increasingly, we're seeing these things called bidding wars, where landlords decide, based on which tenant they're going to take, how much they can pay. And this is a completely unacceptable situation. Now, my Green colleague, Sean Berry, lobbied the mayor for about 2 years, pestered him about rent controls until he eventually agreed, and he lobbied the government for rent controls. I hope he's doing the same thing, though, with the leader of his party, Keir Starmer, and he's going to call for rent controls too. Now, on retrofitting, this is a huge win. This can do 3 things. It can lower emissions, it can lower bills, and it can create good green jobs. The problem here is this. The mayor declared a retrofit revolution, but at the rate that he is retrofitting homes in London, we'll have all the homes retrofitted that we need to by 2200. We are going far too slow. Now, I've written a report called Retrofit Revolution, What's Going Wrong? And this shows that there's money that is being unspent from the government. So this is something we urgently need to get on top of. We have some of the leakiest homes in Europe, and getting these homes retrofitted can lower bills and can also make sure that people renting have good, decent homes.
AM Bailey.
Thank you. The Mayor will tell you that he achieved his housing figure and he just about did it. He used every trick in the book, and I don't say that as a criticism. He worked hard and he made it happen. The big challenge now is, can he achieve his new affordable homes programme, because he's halfway through and hasn't built a single home. So we on the Housing Committee are pushing him to tell us how he's going to do that, because it's an enormous challenge for him and he needs to get it done. And we're here to help him, but also to hold him to account to make sure he does actually get it done. And the other thing to say is rent controls. Let me be very clear, if you're a young person, rent controls sound great, don't they? They're going to be an absolute disaster. They've never worked anywhere in the world, nowhere in the world. And I know you're sat there and it sounds great, but when you leave this room, you go and find out where in the world rent controls work. They simply haven't. They're an absolute disaster. They destroy supply and they destroy the conditions of the homes you're getting. And so you mustn't have that happen to young people. And if you do believe in rent controls and you think the Mayor is serious, ask him what kind of rent controls, because that's the question he hasn't answered to the government. Even if the government were minded to give him the powers, and they're not, what kind? And until he answers that question, he's actually not serious, he's just playing politics. But again, rent controls have never worked anywhere ever in the history of humankind.
To be fair to the online people, I'm going to ask their questions, although they are quite similar to what we've just heard. The first question is, will you call on the national government to introduce rent controls? And the second question is, what is the Mayor doing to build the affordable homes London needs? And I'll call on AM Sheikh before the Mayor to answer.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Sakina Sheikh. I am the Labour Group lead on planning and regeneration, and it's really important to be talking about housing. I'm a young person who rents in London. I find it impossible to save half the time, given the cost of living crisis as well. And I think it's really important that we put this in the context. We have a government that oversees the national budget that we are allocated. 13 years of a Tory government has led to the housing crisis. This does not come about in a bubble. It's context. We have homelessness increasing because we had right to buy, which means we've lost our social housing stock. We have a really, really, really aggressive cycle of Section 21 no-fault evictions when dodgy landlords kick people out onto the streets and it escalates into temporary accommodation. We have kids growing up in temporary accommodation. So if you want to know what we're doing from City Hall, the Mayor and the Assembly are really clear that actually the government needs to stop messing about. The rental reform bill that was meant to fix this, it was meant to address the issues in the rental crisis that we have here in London and the UK. It's been delayed for over 4 years. We finally got it on the table and they're delaying again. This is dysfunctional governance from a Tory government. They cannot manage this country, and that's why we're in a housing crisis. That's why if you're a young person in London, it's impossible to build up the deposit to buy a house. You end up in a rental trapped market, and then when your rent rises, I have so many friends who get kicked out and they live in this precarious circumstance. You can't build community, you can't build friends, you can't put down roots, you can't establish a life, you can't thrive. So it's actually essential that we intervene in the rental market. That's why I'm so proud that our Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, said in his last election, this is a referendum on rent controls, and he was elected. So London has spoken that we want rent controls. So the very least we're asking from the government is at least give us the powers to do the investigation, to give you the evidence that this is clearly what Londoners need. Now, on the second issue of sustainable homes, and I think that was an excellent question from the young man in an incredible suit, I have to say. You know, we talk about leadership, it's been the theme of the evening, and I think it's a really important question because, again, we are always, it's important for politicians to be responsible in the constraints of what we are allocated from national government in terms of budget. So when we are having to deal with a government that moves the goalposts when it comes to, for instance, TfL funding deal, what we go away and do, which is what we do best, is we create world-leading policy, and that's what our policy on building sustainably is. 68% of London's carbon emissions comes from the way we construct and whether our housing is retrofitted or not, which is why, again, I'm really proud of the Mayor of London for having a retrofit programme for homes, but also having policy that the national government does not have on how we reduce carbon in the way that we construct our housing. So I think if you're looking for leadership, I certainly would recommend you going to the ballot next year and voting for a Mayor who has shown leadership in policy and is showing leadership when it comes to intervening in the rental crisis. Thank you.
Do you want to ask a question? Do you want to ask a question still? Come in here, they've got the microphone here. Before the Mayor, just we have a young person in the front row. Oh, there's one there. You've got a microphone.
First of all, I'd like to say that I did not appreciate you rejecting my question when I put my hand up. as an advocate for young people. But I wanted to ask, what do you think is your timeline for housing actually being affordable? Because at the moment, I have not seen it become affordable, especially for my family. Will we be able to live in London when we go to university, or will our children be able to live in London when they're in university? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your question. I'll come to yours third, because there's two other questions I've been asked before. So look, we were set a target, and I want to thank Lord Bailey for being generous in the start of your question, the start of your answer anyway, not the second half. So in 2016, the government did set us a target in relation to homes. They set the entire country a target. The good news is London met the target. The bad news is the rest of the country did not meet the target. And I'm incredibly proud we broke records in London meeting those targets. And it goes to the third question that the young person asked from the front. So even though we met the government target, you're spot on, it's not enough. And so Tom Copley, who's here, who's the Deputy Mayor of Housing, brought together a number of experts, councils, housing associations, private developers, and other experts. Say, look, what do we need to do to meet your needs, your family's needs in relation to the supply of new homes meeting the demand? And what they said very simply was, look, the amount of money we get from the government we're grateful for every year, we need 6 times what we get from the government. So even though we've broken records, most completions, any time since the 1930s, we complete on average 35,000 homes a year. The previous mayor completed 25,000, by the way, but 35,000 not enough. We've got to be completing 50,000 every year. That's the bad news. And that's why I make the point which goes to the rent freeze and the rent control. For the foreseeable future, I'm afraid the supply of new homes, even with the best one in the world, is not going to meet demand. So for the foreseeable future, lots of people will be renting privately. Now, you can either pretend it works and people are doing okay, or you can recognize there are 3 big problems with renting privately. Zach is spot on. The rents go up without even no control over it. You can't afford it, so you've got to move, as Zach had to. Or the quality of the accommodation is not great. You're too scared to complain because you might be evicted. Because of 3, you've got no rights as a private tenant. And so, again, good news. We've managed to persuade this government, different party. They've moved and they are now going to bring in a landlord's register. They originally said no. To give them credit, they moved during the pandemic and had a ban on any evictions during the pandemic. They listened to us. We're really, and the third thing in relation to this government is they stopped tenants having to pay a fee when they changed property. They've also agreed, by the way, to get rid of no-fault eviction eventually, as Sakina Sheikh said. What I'm saying to the government is, look, why don't you give us the powers to set up a commission? We'll get landlords in the commission, we'll get tenants, we'll get experts, and we'll form a system of rent controls that works for our city. But let me tell you the thing that's really exciting. In Scotland, the Labour Party and others, young people, lobbied the Scottish government and said, you know what, in the meantime, why don't you freeze rents? And the Scottish government agreed to freeze rents. If this government froze rents for 2 years, the average family will save £2,500. And that's why we're going to carry on lobbying the government. And if they don't agree to do it, hopefully the next government, the Labour government, they will.
We've got time for one more question on housing from the audience. The lady in black, halfway up, number 3. There you go.
So this question is directed towards Susan Hall, and Sadiq Khan, as Susan Hall seems to criticize what the mayor says a lot, but never gives an explanation of what you would do. There has been a rise in youth homelessness in London by 12% from 2020 to 2023. It would be wrong to say that the action has not been taken in order to avoid the further increase of this number. How much more does this number have to increase for these actions to be considered ineffective?
AM Fortune, and then Susan, and then the Mayor, please.
Thank you. I just want to skip back a bit because I want to put some context around the support that the government has given the Mayor of London. Because we've heard that there is a challenge with housing. We've heard that not enough houses are being completed. And the important thing is about completions. You'll hear the Mayor talk about starts. Nobody can live in a start, right? You go, you flatten a piece of land, you put a shovel in it, that's a start. Completions are what matters. The government has so far given the mayor about 9 billion quid to build some affordable housing, right? Now, we hear these numbers chucked around, million here, billion there. If you were to go back in time, a million seconds, you'd be end of October, like Halloweenish, right? If you would go back in time a billion seconds, it would be 1991. That's the difference between a million and a billion. The mayor was given 4.6 billion to start 116 houses between 2016 and 2023. Of those 116, with the 4.2 billion he's been given, only half have been completed. He was then given another 4 billion for the 2021-2026 housing target. They took that number down. So first he was asked to build 116,000. Only half of those has been finished. With the next load of 4 billion quid he got, he was asked to build 35,000. Do you know how many of them have been completed? None. None. Nothing. Zip. Nada. So we agree. There is a housing problem in London. And the person with responsibility for fixing it, and £9 billion of government money to do it, is sitting right there.
AM Hall.
Thank you. And my colleague, Assemblymember Fortune, is completely correct. And when you actually look at those figures, then it makes you start to wonder what Sadiq Khan goes on about. To the lady that asked the questions, I am a London Assembly member, and therefore it is my job to scrutinise the mayor. So it is my job to ask questions of what he is doing with the £21 billion budget that he's got. And I criticise him a lot because, as you will have noticed, he mentions the government all the time. Everything is always somebody else's fault, whether we're talking about crime or whether we're talking about transport or whether we're talking about housing, which are the prime things that he's responsible for. He's letting us all down very, very badly on all of them. And it is my job as an Assembly member to do that. Now, obviously, since you kindly brought it up, I am the mayoral candidate from the Conservatives. So I will be putting, thank you. I hope so. I hope so. And then I will be sitting in that chair, and I promise I will answer all the questions that are put to me. But the thing is, with the mayoral candidate, what I will be doing is putting out a manifesto, which will spell out exactly what I will do in all the separate areas. Now, that is going to be published once I know what the mayor has left with money, because quite frankly, who knows what he'll do in the meantime? And anything that I promise as a mayoral candidate, I will deliver. Unlike this mayor, who's full of hot air and just promises things. So I promise you that I will have a manifesto, and by the time we do the next People's Question Time, I will be very clear on every single area that I will be responsible for. In the meantime, if you look at housing, which is the section we're in now, there is certainly not enough housing done. We're looking at 1 and 2 bedroom flats being put up all the time. I would look to make sure that the London Land Authority was re-established, so we'd look to see where there are nooks and crannies of land that we can build on. Family homes, low-rise, high-density family homes for people, because at the moment it's 1 and 2 bedroom flats, which is fine, but when people want to start a family, they then move out of London. And what we want to do is to create a situation where we've got families putting down roots, making London their home again. A successful city is not only a moving city, which is what I mentioned before, but it's also a city full of young families. And at the moment, with just 1 or 2 bedroom flats going up, we're not actually succeeding in that way. Now, I've spoken to lots of developers who are sitting on billions of pounds, but unfortunately, until the London plan is opened up again and it's made easier for the developers to come in and build beautiful homes, until such time, we are going to stay in this mess now. Now, ask me at the next People's Question Time. By then my manifesto will be out, and I'll be delighted to tell you what I would do as the next Mayor of London.
Thank you. We'll be looking for questions
So
next.
the question.
I'll give you 1 second, Mr. Mayor. Just telling people, next section was London's economic recovery. Please put your hands up where the Mayor answers the final housing question. Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Tony. So the question was about youth homelessness. Can I begin by saying this? I don't think homelessness is a lifestyle choice. the question is, does Susan? That's the question. So a lifestyle, just think about that, a lifestyle choice. Now, just think about the things going through your head when you can say people who are rough sleeping, people who are homeless are choosing to do so. Do you want people like that to be the mayor of your city? Or do you want people who are trying to address these issues? So, for example, I'm really proud. Over the last 7 years, more than 15,000 rough sleepers have been taken off the streets, and 90% are still off the streets because of our investment. The problem is this. There's a conveyor belt of new people coming onto our streets because of changes in welfare benefits policies, because of housing allowance, because of all sorts of issues in the private rental sector. We've got to be prevented in the first place people being made homeless. It's not a lifestyle choice, it's because of challenges they face. And that's why it's incredibly important we address the housing crisis by building more genuinely affordable homes. Not luxury penthouse flats, not homes that are bought by foreigners off-plan as an investment to use the gold bricks, but homes that Londoners can afford to live in. And it's noteworthy that there's one party that doesn't want homes to be affordable, and there's another party that wants them to be affordable. You know, the last year Boris Johnson was mayor, do you know how many homes were given permission that were council homes? 3. 3 in his last year. Do you know last year how many council homes we built? 15,600. 15,600 versus 3. Now, and that's the choice. And that's the choice at the next election. A party in the pocket of developers, a mayor in the pocket of a Tory Prime Minister, or a champion and a fighter for our city. And with me, you know what you got.
The last section I stress is the London's economic recovery. The young man next to you, number 3, paddle.
Hello, Mr. Sadiq Khan. My name is Mohammed Ibrahim, and I wanted to ask, what are you doing towards economic recovery? Because you say that more police have been added to the streets, but police are taking long to come. I was involved in a car accident a few weeks ago, and we were waiting in the car for more than 45 minutes for police to come. And during this time of inflation, prices have been rising a lot, and some people aren't able to tackle these price rises. What are you doing to help those people?
Raising council tax.
And paddle 4, the lady in white by you.
In light of recent announcements from a government that's rolling back on net zero policies, how are you planning to prioritise green economic recovery and growth with restricted budgets?
And paddle 5.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What specific initiatives are in place to boost London's economic recovery, and how do you plan to support struggling businesses and promote employment growth under your continuing and successful leadership? Thank you.
And A.M. Bakari before the Mayor.
Thank you. I want to answer that question about economic recovery. I think I'm going to just flag something that the London Assembly did very recently. And our chair mentioned this. We are the voice of London, which means that we represent the whole of London. And what the London Assembly did recently was a cost of living conference, which involved all of the political parties here. The London Assembly works collaboratively to make sure that we represent you and make sure that your voices are heard. And I think this is one of the most important jobs that we have, is to make sure that we amplify the voices of those people who are going through an incredibly tough time right now with the cost of living crisis. And I'm very proud of the fact that we all work together, Labour Party, the Conservatives and the Greens, and me, the Liberal Democrat Party as well. So I'm so proud of that, and I want you to understand that this is an important part of the work that we've been doing. And on that point, I think there's a real reflection from the cost of living conference that we really picked up on, and that was mental health and the impact that the cost of living crisis is having on so many people right now. There's a real stigma for people right now even to ask for help. And so many people who were coming to the conference from agencies, from charities, were saying to us that there is help out there, but there are people who are just not able to reach out to ask for that help. That's a real barrier, and something that we really need to amplify as well, to make sure that we are able to reach out to those people, make sure that they have the help that they need through a really, really challenging time. The things that we learned from that conference were immense, but one of the things I want to mention was that the two-child benefit cap kept on coming up again and again and again. This means that larger families are impacted more than anyone else when it comes to the benefit cap. And the Liberal Democrat Party will scrap this to ensure that larger families get benefits. And the most vulnerable families in London tend to come from ethnic minority families, larger families in places like Newham, Tower Hamlets, these areas here that really need that kind of support. And I'm sad to say that the main two parties still have to make that promise to scrap the two-child benefit cap. They also talked about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. And I'm pleased that the Mayor of London has brought in free school meals. I'm sure he'll mention that in a moment. But it's a short-term approach. It's only for 1 year. We need government support to make sure that it is long-term. When the Liberal Democrats were in government, we brought in universal free school meals for Key Stage 1, and that continued on because it came from a government approach. And I'm really fearful for the fact that it might not, it won't continue after a year without government support. And finally, I want to pick up on something else that we picked up at the conference. A lot of refugees and asylum seekers are going through an incredibly tough time. Asylum seekers are not given the right to work. They cannot work. That's a human right. You should be allowed to work. And what the Assembly did here recently, we passed a motion, cross-party, to lift the ban, to promote the need for asylum seekers to work. And we want the Mayor to make a public commitment to that as well within the GLA. We're still waiting to hear back from the Mayor on that, and it'd be good to hear from him now about that particular issue.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, can I begin by thanking all the young people here tonight for the inspiring questions that you have asked. They really have been fantastic. I'm really, really grateful. And actually, you've shown how to disagree agreeably, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. The elders could learn from you and the way you've conducted yourself this evening. So the first question was about inflation and the impact in relation to the challenges that you are facing. So obviously, we as a City Hall, with the best will in the world, can't control the macroeconomics of what's happening in the country in relation to interest rates and those sorts of issues and what's leading to some of the inflation across the country. What we can do, though, is make it easier for people during the cost of living crisis. So, for example, I'm incredibly proud, for the first time in the history of our city, every family with a child at primary school is saving £440 because we have, for the first time in history, universal free school meals. If you've got 2 or 3 children, you're saving a lot of money as a consequence of our investment in free school meals.
Quiet, please. Let's get on with the meeting.
One of the reasons why we've made sure that the London living wage has gone up the amount it has, more than 40% since I became mayor. For those people to do a hard day's work, they deserve a decent day's pay. It's now more than £13.15. And the great news is, whereas before, 1 out of 5 Londoners didn't receive a London living wage, they're less than the London living wage, that's gone down now to almost 10%. More and more employers understand the benefits of paying their staff more. We've also got to recognise that those Londoners who are maybe in lower paid jobs need skills to get better paid jobs. We're using the adult education budget to give free courses for those in low paid jobs or those in minimum wage jobs so they can get higher paid jobs, which is incredibly important, particularly during a cost of living crisis. We're going to carry on supporting Londoners during this difficult time. We have the cheapest bus fares in the country for a reason, hopper bus fare for a reason. The second question is incredibly important. And actually, if we're sensible, we can turn a crisis, climate change, into an opportunity. What do I mean by that? Just think about the fact that we are in London now. we've got more than a third of the country's electric vehicle charging points. That's jobs being created to install the EV charging points, which tackles the climate emergencies. More rapid charging points than any city in Western Europe. That's creating jobs as well. The electric buses, we've now got more than 1,000 electric buses, more than any city in Western Europe. That's jobs being created across the country. Insulating our homes, Zach talked about a retrofit revolution, which is what we're embarking on. That's creating jobs, insulation, double glazing, triple glazing. Installing the water fountains is creating jobs. So I think what we should do, instead of kicking the can down the road, is embrace the need to tackle the climate emergency. But guess what? Not only do we create jobs, we reduce people's bills. Because if homes are insulated, it means you're not spending so much on your heating bill during the winter. If homes are designed well, taller ceilings, bigger windows, you have air going through your buildings, you don't need to have your fans running during the course of the summer. And it's incredibly important that we cities lead, because it's quite clear that governments aren't leading. And so cities have got to be the doers, whereas the governments quite clearly are the delayers. And the third question is really, really important about how we can support small businesses, particularly post-pandemic, during this recovery that is required so much. You know, an amazing stat. More than 95% of Londoners work for a small business. So by helping small businesses, we're helping the vast majority of Londoners. So a number of things we're doing to help small businesses. The great news, by the way, is since 2016, we've supported more than 12,000 businesses in London. Many small businesses, they help create more than 330,000 jobs. It's they that make the profits, that pays the taxes. That means you can provide the public services we provide. So the two best examples of the things we are doing to support small businesses is something called Grow London. And this is a one-stop shop for a small business person to get support in relation to the things that will help them thrive and flourish. There could be a trip to overseas to speak to venture capitalists, speak to angel investors, to sell their goods and services overseas. And the second big thing we're doing is something called the London Business Hub. So you, as a small business, may find it really difficult to take on an apprentice. You find it difficult to apply for grant money. You might find the cost of doing business quite difficult, getting skilled labour, getting expertise. We will help you do that with the London Business Hub. And the final thing, Tony, it's worth mentioning is our high streets. Our high streets are incredibly important, so we're investing in a high streets fund to support small businesses on the high streets, so more and more people are walking past their shops, their businesses will go in and hopefully be potential customers and clients. And it's incredibly important. City Hall is pro-business, because being pro-business supports our city.
Right, I've now got four Assembly members that want to speak, but I want to take the audience first. So the gentleman with newspaper up there.
Sorry. Yeah, me?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. We've heard a lot about government. Do you all mind just turning around? People's question time, not Prime Minister's question time. Okay, thank you. London's economic recovery. Mr. Mayor, are you paying attention? Mr. Mayor, have you been out into London? Because businesses shutting, ULEZ taxing the poorest. We've got tube fares that are the highest metro fare in the world. You can't build any houses. You can't build any houses, especially not affordable ones. London under you is crumbling. And every single person who can be bothered to say to you that what they think, London is falling apart because of you, but it's always someone else's fault, isn't it? It's always the government, or it's the Met Police Commissioner, or it's someone else, or, you know, oh, it was a difficult weather today, so that's why the climate's bad. I'm sorry, but the buck stops at you. You are London's mayor. You are the Police and Crime Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police. It's your responsibility. So when will you do us a favour and resign?
Right, have we got one more?
We want Susan Hall.
Okay,
we don't want Sadiq Khan. We want Susan Hall, not Sadiq Khan.
I'll hire you later for the Tory party. Thank you. Next. And the gentleman there, number one, yes.
Thank you. shoplifting is on rise in London. What do you have in place to support businesses, especially small businesses who are being affected? And this shoplifting is because of homelessness, which is really on the rise in London.
Right, I'm now going to call 4 AMs. They better all be very quick. You've got 30 seconds each in the following order. AM Harani, AM Polanski, and AM Desai. Be very short this time, please. And then finally, AM Boff. Go.
Thank you, sir. I'm just recovering from Councillor Susan Hall's co-councillor's speech there. The same councillor who... The same councillor, I think, who ran a... Okay.
Embarrassing, Susan.
Yeah, so I think you'd be quite interested to see some of...
Because he's asking questions, just like lots of the other audience. Perhaps he'll get
I didn't hear a question.
Come on. People at the front as well, please.
Yeah.
AM Harani, carry on.
Thank you. I think you'd be quite interested in one...
Come on. Go ahead, AM. Please. Come on. Oh, God.
Tony, you've got
This
to
is your
just bring it to an end,
final
Tony.
warning. Or else we'll just clear the room. We've only got 4 minutes left, so we can stop early. No, come on, AM Harani, quick. Quiet. Go.
Thank you. So there's a serious question somewhere in there about economic growth, and the Mayor addressed some of the issues about how London can work with industries to make sure that we have that economic growth. If we're looking at car manufacturing, for example, looking at how maybe some of our environmental policies, as well as when London and TfL invest in buses, can help to improve economic growth and boost jobs in other parts of the country. What we need to see is actually a serious government that takes London seriously and recognises the importance that we have, especially on a global platform. If we look at the fastest growing industry before the pandemic in London, it was culture and tourism and the creative industries. And we have had investment from City Hall in terms of London Borough of Culture. I know in my area, my constituency in particular, we had mass investment in culture and creative industries. There's the cultural enterprise zones as well, which is boosting local projects and local artists to get to that next stage. And as someone who represents an area that includes Wembley Stadium, if you look at the programme of activity that we had over this summer in particular in terms of concerts, events and sporting events as well, it's something that we really need to drive London. I know that the work that London and partners are doing is promoting London as that global tourist destination, because it's only by working and recognising London's significance to the UK that we can get that economic growth and boost and get that recovery that we all need.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you. All evening we've heard about a cost of living crisis, but actually what we've got in this country and in London is an inequality crisis. Plenty of people are doing perfectly well right now, and what we really need to be doing is taxing wealth. So when we think about environmental justice, there's no environment, thank you. There's no environmental justice without social, racial and economic justice too, and it's vital that we always make sure that black and brown communities, working class communities, people with disabilities co-design and co-produce any measures to tackle the climate crisis. And for example, when we look at transport, it can't make sense that if you can't afford to live in zone 1 but you live in zone 6, you have to pay more if you're a key worker to get into zone 1. So we should be looking at things like flat fares across the whole of the transport infrastructure to make sure that we're keeping fares as low as possible. Now, the Mayor's getting some of this right, but recently when I asked him about private jets, this is something that's used by 1% of the population, not even 1%. He said that he wouldn't condemn all use of private jets in London because sometimes there might be exceptional circumstances, like time of day. I think it's vital we make sure that when we're making measures, we're making sure we're thinking about the 99% of Londoners and not the 1% of wealthiest Londoners. And finally, having had a go at the Mayor, I want to congratulate him on free school meals. He talks about this a lot, but to be honest, if I'd come up with free school meals and got that going in London, I'd talk about it a lot too. It's really important that children going to bed tonight will have been to school. They might be living in poverty, but when they went to school, they'll have had a decent meal. We know the research that shows that universality doesn't just obviously help them with their nutrition, but also helps with their learning attainment, and that's really important. This principle of universality should be extended, though. I've been campaigning for a universal basic income. There's a community in East Finchley that have been setting up community pilot projects of themselves, and I'm really pleased that the Mayor said he's proud of that project, and he applauds them. What I'd like to see him is getting behind that project even more and helping to fund it, or at least wraparound support, because a universal basic income should be the future, so no one has to live in poverty or insecurity. Thank you, Chair.
Unmesh, very quickly.
Very quickly, Chair. 2 concrete measures to tackle the cost of living crisis by this Labour Mayor. Hard facts. He increased the London living wage by 10% to £13.15. It has risen by 40% since 2016. Also, the announcement at the Olympic Stadium, and that's the way to tackle the cost of living crisis, which is also a crisis about low wages. And secondly, free school meals. Free school meals. I did not just campaign for it. I actually helped implement it. I was a councillor in this area for 20 years. And in 2009, I was part of the administration that introduced the country's first free school meals program, saving a family with 2 kids £667 a year. Solid measures. That is what we need. Yes, it's for 1 year. But I tell you what, talk to those people who are benefiting from this scheme. Assemblymember Best, who's not here, actually said it's like reversing Robin Hood, taking from the poor to give to the rich. Well, that actually is completely sort of contradiction of reality. The families who benefit from free school meals appreciate it. That's a concrete way to beat the cost of living crisis. Thank you.
AM Boff.
You know, I feel sorry for the Mayor, only because of the party he's in, really. He's got plenty of money. He's increased council tax, or his precept to the council tax since he got elected by 58%, and there's money sloshing around at City Hall. And there's very rare occasions, on very rare occasions, the Assembly actually has the power to change the Mayor's budget. And if we all agree, or most of us agree, 2/3 of us agree, we can actually change the Mayor's budget. So at the budget setting, we had a proposal. All the parties had voted for improving the transport network so that there were more changing place toilets for the disabled on the transport network. All the parties agreed with that, except for Labour. We then proposed that we should have a better scrappage scheme so that those small businesses that have now been put out of business by the Mayor's ULEZ would at least have the resources to be able to upgrade their vehicles. All the Assembly supported that, except Labour. We then said, as Assembly Member Harani said earlier, we needed to invest in buses. And so we then said we'd use some of that money to invest in buses in out of London because we realise how important those buses are to the economy of London. And all the Assembly members voted for, except Labour. Now, all I would ask you to do is feel sorry for the Mayor because of the party he's in. And it's a shame that with the available money that he's now got, he's presiding over the death of the economy, especially the nighttime economy in London. And he's even gone to the extent, he's so pleased with his record on the nighttime economy in London that he's rewarded the night czar a 40% pay increase for presiding over a year-on-year decline of the nightlife in London. And it makes you wonder, perhaps we should put in a perverse alternative. Perhaps we should actually have a night czar for doing nothing. Because at least then you know they're going to fail and you might get something done. So the Mayor has failed, but he's failed because of the party he's in. Feel sorry for him.
We've got 7 minutes to do all other questions. I'd like to do a couple for culture, health, or education. But before, I know you want to.
The shopkeeper with a question about theft. And,
oh, apologies. Go ahead.
So before I get to your really important question, sir, can I just say, when it came to a vote for free school meals, the Tories voted against it. So we can talk about voting all day long, which is just a fact in relation to their voting record. But can I thank you, sir, for coming along tonight to ask that really important question. So can I...
Quiet!
All I'd say is you're cheering better than Tony Devenish. So can I just, you raise a really important question in relation to not just the theft from shops, but also assault of shop workers working in shops. You know, I've got family and friends who work in shops, and so I understand the challenges that you face every day. So in relation to theft...
Quiet! Come on, 5 minutes to go. Mr. Mayor, please.
So in relation to thefts from shops, there has been a big increase over the last period. You're right, some of it is because of the cost of living crisis. Some retailers now are putting dummy nappies out because nappies are being stolen and children's food and so forth. And you're right, a lot of it, I'm not excusing thefts and criminality, but a lot of it is because of the cost of living crisis. Mums not able to afford nappies and food for their kids and so forth. And so you're right. We've got to have policies that support families that are really struggling.
Quiet!
And we
4 minutes.
And we know half the families in London are just about managing or financially struggling, and that's why free school meals is making a difference to those families. What the police are doing is working with shopkeepers, but you'll appreciate that what some shopkeepers are doing, which is great, is having good preventative measures, but some shops can't afford to do those. So the police are supporting them with advice what they can do to reduce thefts. The second part of the equation, though, is assaults on staff, and I think it's right that those who do that and are caught and are charged receive more serious sentences for assaulting staff. Many retailers lost their lives during the pandemic because of the spread of the virus. We've got a team working with the business community. The Deputy Mayor is here afterwards, so if you want to just wait outside, we'll give you some how to reach us to get specific advice in your shop to make sure you have less thefts and less assaults as well.
Who wants to ask the last two questions? The young gentleman at the back here, number 5, please. And the lady there, number 1.
My question is to...
Good evening.
Sorry.
I'd like to ask how the funding of schools in low-income areas of London is going to improve. How are we going to address the shortage of teachers? It is fundamentally depriving our education severely in certain areas, especially poor areas of London.
And the late gentleman here?
My question to Sadiq Khan, since he's going on about policing, how would you tackle the unjustified arrest that Metropolitan Police has made against pro-Palestinian protesters for simply waving a Palestine flag?
And one last...
Free Palestine!
And one last question from the audience. Anybody else? Lady at the back, last row. Right at the back. Okay, we'll do one more.
Mr. Mayor, can you please explain to me your mobile vans? The guys that actually work them, the guards, stand there with masks on so we can't see their faces. Plus, they're supposed to be SIA trained. Why are they not wearing their badges? Why do they refuse to wear their badges? And why are they now beginning to get violent, especially towards us women?
Answer this one, go on.
Okay, that's...
You got them in the first place.
We've got the question. Can you let the one last question go and then we'll answer?
They're outside schools when they shouldn't be. Surely that's a safeguarding issue. But do you care? No, you don't.
And the lady at the front, quickly. Shush! Go!
First, I want to appreciate the mayor for giving
myself and my colleagues the opportunity to come for this People's Question Time. And it shows that he has an interest in young people and is seeking for leadership. I appreciate him so much. And then today I've learned the definition of what it means to be strong from you, because you got a lot of questions. And if I was in your position, I would have, worked out, but you remained strong and you were able to give reasons for your actions as a mayor. And you are not just a mayor to us, but you're a mentor, because seeing that you give us 100,000 young people mentors shows that you are really investing in us, and that's the true definition of a superhero. And we are thankful to you for that, myself and the Future Leaders team. And
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to, Miss, I'm going to have to wrap you up. The Mayor's got 1 minute to answer, so I'm really sorry, that's it. Mr. Mayor, you've got 1 minute to answer, and then we're going to shut the whole thing down. Sorry. Mr. Mayor, we've got a minute. It's minute to 9 o'clock. We got 1 minute left.
You can also help us in improving our skills and abilities, because it's not all about education. Education is what can take us to the top, but we have skills like singing, writing, creative writing of articles. Many of us are interested in news writing and, just developing our skills. So are there platforms for us as young people to thrive in London? Because and I gave an example, which is Britain's Got Talent, but can we bring opportunities like that to London so that it can be closer to people and we don't feel, left out of such opportunities? So I thank you so much, sir. And then I have 2 concerns also concerning school buses.
Sorry, we literally got 30 seconds. Mr. Mayor's got to answer.
Sorry, sir.
You can talk to him afterwards. Please sit down. I think I'm going to say good night now because it's 9 o'clock. I apologise. Good night, everybody.